YouTube removed their collab stream already. You know how I told you that there was a collaboration YouTube thing? They removed it already. It was there. It's gone. Welcome back. Hello. We're the Bourbon Junkies.
We are the Bourbon Junkies.
I found a difference on our soundboard, so that'll be interesting.
You found a difference?
Yeah, between yours and mine.
What was the difference?
Your attack on your noise gate was about quadruple mine. So
it wouldn't make sense if we're not running the noise gate, so it doesn't matter.
But the noise gates are always on. We never turn them off now.
I always turn mine off.
It was on today.
Well, you turned it on.
Nope.
My noise gate's always on.
Hello, everybody.
That would make me louder.
No, but the attack would allow, your attack would allow less noise in. Mine would allow way more noise in, which is, it sounded like I was far away from the mic and there was like echo.
I
don't know. It was significantly different. It was, Dan is blowing up my speaker. Yep. Well, I was right. All right. Is that better?
Probably. I'm probably quiet if anything. I'm only like halfway.
I didn't change any of the sliders. I just changed some noise gate settings. Yeah. 2 is a disaster, buddy, on that soundboard.
I bet.
Oh, I went into 2 and I'm like, I'm doing 3.
You might as well take that
1 and 3. Yeah, 1 and 3.
All right. I'll try to bump it a little bit. I think I normally am about right. That's close.
Dan sounds hot. Well, guess what, guys? Dan's peaking. I'm really not. According to the soundboard,
you already peaked.
No,
it was high school.
Not even close. Definitely not high school.
It's tough.
Definitely not high school.
Tough to hear.
Dan's considerably louder. We'll give you guys a second to catch up and see what happens.
I'll give it a tiny little bump more. We'll figure it out.
I like how Lukens comes in this chat. He goes, hi. He comes in my other chat and just rude. First sentence.
As he should be.
Angry.
Yeah.
Aggressive. Saw y'all at Burt Kreischer last night. You should have said hi, Eric.
Yeah. It was really late, so.
Somebody I used to work with that you also know. We went to high school with him. He came up and we were in line and he goes, oh my gosh, it's the Bourbon Junkies. It's Dan. It was Micah. And Ricky turned around. She goes, oh my, and then saw it was Micah. She's like, I hate you.
Yeah.
I hate you so much.
Good guy.
It's funny though.
Adultish Gambino. Welcome to BJ fam. Thanks for being here. Appreciate the membership, buddy. I feel like you were. I know the name. It's been around for a while.
All right, man. Thank you for joining. Okay, is the audio better? And then we'll talk about, when the audio is better, we'll talk about what we're doing, and we'll move on with our evening here.
Bert was a lot of fun.
Bert was great.
A lot of fun.
Bert was exactly as I had hoped and dreamed. It was everything I wanted him to be.
We really didn't have anyone. Dan set different from us. I don't know where he was at. He was in Narnia, but we didn't have anyone crazy around us. It was nice.
You just said I'm still peaking, and it's not. It sounds fine on my phone.
It looks fine on the board.
You guys are being weird, huh? Can't you hear Sean? Guys, I could just hear me and Sean.
Yeah. That's all I got for you.
You sound fine.
It sounds just fine.
That's halfway up.
Well, hey, I think it's going to be a you thing.
I think you guys are going to be complainers tonight. Can't hear Dan. All right. And okay, here's how we're going to kick it off tonight. Next person in chat that lies to us, banned forever. All right.
Can we follow through on it?
Yeah, we can. We can just hide you.
Was Bert topless? I think it took him what? 8
claps.
8 seconds for him to take his shirt off. Yeah. Like rolled out, everyone stood up, clapped, and then he took a moment, went like this, shirt off.
Yeah.
Like, all right,
and then it was cheering for about 5 minutes straight.
Yep.
But yeah. Okay. So guys, Matt said I weigh 7 pounds. Matt's very sick right now.
Oh.
So he probably has like dumped a shit ton of weight. He's got a hardcore flu he's had. I called him today. He didn't answer. And I was like, should we fly to Colorado and check on him?
He's just paying you back for everything.
I also thought that. Yeah. No, you're just loud, Dan. Cheers, best busting balls. What's up, buddy? Thanks for using your comment. You've been a member for 21 months, man. That's a long time. Okay, listen. Here's what we're doing tonight.
Appreciate that, Alan.
We have Bardstown on the table, and we have Dan from Bardstown here with us, not in person, not physically here, but here on the screen here very shortly. So if you don't know, Dan from Bardstown, he literally creates these things, which is why this is going to be so cool, because we have Disco 9 right here. This is Disco. I'm just going to drink this first.
Yeah, that's what I'm drinking right now.
We have Disco 9 right here, and then each component of Disco 9 is also in front of us. So what we're going to be able to do is taste each individual component. And then Dan put this all together and made like this final product. So it'd be really cool. Actually, is this the first time you and I have ever got to do a deconstruction of any whiskey?
Yeah.
I can't think of another one we
would need someone else like Nancy to send us out that she blends. And like,
I know I didn't know between Dixon, Nancy, like some of these people, I didn't know if we've ever done it before, ever. At Whiskey Weekend, we got to
put
try
something
stuff
together
at
Whiskey Weekend, true. But we weren't we were constructing.
We tried our
Your
own.
team tried.
Yeah.
My team just succeeded.
Well, we constructed things. So needless to say, we're going to obviously shoot the shit as normal. If you guys have questions at some point in chat, we can say, if you guys have questions, ask them now, and then we'll ask those questions to Dan.
That's the Ontario whiskey. That's why it's real light.
Is it? Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to bring Dan, and then Dan can explain.
It's also sitting next to you, 17-year bourbon to it. So going to look a little bit different.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good,
excellent,
man.
Excellent. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for being here again and again.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, this is awesome. I'm excited. Fan of what you guys do.
Dan, when this goes sideways,
inevitably,
and you're like, I can't believe any like people made me go on here, we can all blame Ron together as a unit, 100%. And Ron's the guy that's in trouble. You know what I mean?
Ron's always the guy in trouble. That's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I can see that. No, man, thank you for being on here with us and hanging out. Well, this is like I was just telling Sean, like this is not something we'd ever been able to do before.
Nope.
Especially one of the things that you guys do that we like a lot, that I'm sure a bunch of people in the whiskey community like a lot, is the transparency on the side of the bottle. With like how transparent it is pretty wild, if we're being honest, because you even put the percentages of the blends on there. But this is a really cool thing. Now, I think it's even cooler to be able to like try them individually when you were looking at which one it is. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's awesome. And that's a core tenet of Bardstown Bourbon Company is transparency, right? So it starts from when you walk up in the building, all glass looking onto the still. When you come, you tour, we show you how we make 54 recipes, how everything that goes into it extends to the blends. And I like you said, right? I think this is really innovative, and we're seeing a lot of other distilleries follow suit, putting the mash bill, the origin, the percentage of the blend right on the label, so you can know exactly how we came up with it. Yeah, exactly. It's cool.
My favorite part about putting the percentage on there, and I know it doesn't exactly work like this, but in my mind, you look at it and you go like Bardstown, whoever you want to point the finger at, is confident enough to be like, listen, try it. I don't know. The percentage is right there. If you get the exact same whiskey, you could try and do as well as I do. You know what I mean?
Good news is we do. I still don't think you could recreate
I'm 100% sure I can't, but I love the confidence of the percentage being like, dude, just try it. Bet you know, I'm great at this. Like,
no, we love the idea of blending high quality products, and you know, we feel like we're on the forefront of it, but I hope you guys do take some bourbons and play with them and create, because you really can make some awesome flavor profiles by putting different pieces together. So yeah, we love doing it.
So before we get into the disco deconstruction, because I think that's going to really intrigue me, and I'm not going to get distracted from that.
Yeah, you will.
You'll get distracted. I think I'm going to be lost in it.
Oh yeah.
So I was talking to Ron about this, and he was like, you gotta ask Dan because he has a really interesting background. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. He's like, he like grew up in a different place. I didn't know you were a sommelier. He told me you're a som, like a wine sommelier. And I was like, that's crazy. And you weren't actually involved in whiskey at all, like in your in the past.
Yeah, no, he's spot on. So I grew up in England, grew up overseas, came over when I was 11 to Baltimore, and then always wanted to be a musician. So I, my whole family's musicians, and studied music, ended up playing the French horn for about a decade, played in the Louisiana Philharmonic, which is the orchestra down in New Orleans.
That's awesome.
Met my wife, who lives in Kentucky. So she brought me up to Kentucky, and was always into, it was either move to Kentucky or don't, was the decision I had. So I was always into wine, cocktails, got my SOM certification, started running a restaurant in Louisville. And from there met the people that were starting Bardstown Bourbon Company. Initially came down worked with them on the restaurant side, the bar side. That started in 2018. It's such a new company. We only started distilling in 2016, right?
That's
So
so wild.
yeah, it's
Aren't they, like,
quadrupled
number
in
11 now
size since
overall?
then. Yeah, top 10 whiskey
That
producer. It's incredible.
that is crazy. That, like,
That's some growth.
when you
man.
say that year, like, because the funny thing is when you start thinking, especially obviously in around that part of Kentucky, but you start thinking of the legacy or heritage distilleries, whatever word you want to use, right? And you think of like the distilleries that have been there forever. And like Bardstown in my brain creeps into that, like it's Old Forester and it's Buffalo Trace and it's Turkey and Bardstown's there. And it's wild that, what is that? You said 18, so 4 years.
Well, the 2016 is when we started distilling.
Okay.
2018 was the restaurant, and at the time, that was brand new. No one had ever done that. We were the first out of the gate to put a restaurant and a bar right with the distillery in Kentucky. It was a new legislature that passed. We jumped on it, and it was an intentional decision also to build it in Bardstown. If you think about Bardstown as the bourbon capital of the world, 11 distillery experiences within 16 miles. We could have put the distillery in Miami or San Francisco. We wanted to be surrounded by that history, master distiller Steve Nally, and be a modern take on that.
Man, that's so
seems wild to me.
And I've heard literally nothing but incredible things about the restaurant. So
yeah, everyone talks about that. They're like, if you have a chance, you need to go to the restaurant.
Yeah,
it'll change your life.
To come down and check it out. But yeah,
I know,
so we
Ron,
came and yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that restaurant, it was something brand new, right? And that approach extended to the visitor center, and that idea of collaboration with distillers, chefs, beverage directors, all working together on flavor profiles is something we've really embraced.
Man, that's amazing.
How did you go from working, setting up the restaurant and stuff like that to now blending the Discovery series and that type of work?
Yeah. I mean, it was probably a bigger jump to go from music into wine and spirits. Once I was kind of rolling on the wine and spirits, it kind of made sense just because I was really studying flavor profiles, both on culinary and wine side, and really just took that and working with the full team on the whiskey side. It just happened really naturally. And I love setting up collaborations. So our projects with Foursquare, Amar Nonino, Goose Island, some fantastic producers, Blackberry Farm. I love being involved on that, and most importantly, everything we do, I can't stress it enough, is a team, right? It takes a lot of talented people to put this bottle together. So I love leading the process and just being a part of the team at the end of the day.
Do you guys have, this might be too inside baseball to get super into, do you guys have like a tasting panel? So if you blend something, then do you have 12 people or whatever that go through and
your sensory panel?
Absolutely, and it works in two different ways. There's a tasting panel that, say we're looking at something, a distillate or something we're bottling, more of a technical side. If there's a blend we're putting together, that's, say I've put together a blend or a finish, I will bring in, there's just so many talented individuals, everyone from the lab, even the marketing team are huge whiskey fanatics. I want to make sure I get it in front of our chef, our beverage director, and
oh wow, so it's a lot of people then.
Everyone. Yeah, and I think that's how we get to the best result. Genuinely, is we all think about whiskey in different ways, and that's our approach. Is really a team approach.
Interesting. So do you like pull, so like on Discovery 9, like did you go out and look at the Canadian whiskey and say, well, I want to work with that in this project, or do you just kind of pull from different things and just try to make something work?
That's a great question. Sourcing whiskey is a huge part of it, and basically certain profiles will come on the market. We have Susie Garvin, who's just a legend in the industry that has great relationships to say, hey, we've got some 12-year Canadian whiskey available. We'll bring it in and we'll say, okay, what would this work for? And maybe it works for a project we're working on. Maybe I know we're doing a certain finish in 2 years, and we say, let's let it age for a while. So it's picking up quality whiskeys, seeing what they work with, and the best way to form a year's worth of production out of those.
So then are you working only at like one disco batch at a time, or do you have maybe like two separate things or three separate things you're trying to work on at the same time?
That's what I was going to ask.
Discovery it's usually 2 at a time, 1 actively. So I've just finished spring 23,
Okay.
right?
And will
It'll
that, and
come
that'll
out
be
in April.
10? Will that be
That'll be
10
so
then?
it's interesting. So they've been numbered 1 through 9.
Yeah.
Starting next year, because we don't want to
20.
get in a situation where we're going batch 37, right?
Right.
We
Sure,
want to
sure.
go spring 20. It'll just be 2 discoveries
Okay.
a year,
Okay.
and there'll be spring 23 and fall 23.
Okay.
So spring 23 is wrapped up, and now we can work on the design, the packaging, and now I'm looking at fall 23 and what whiskeys we can bring on for that.
I thought
Very
it was going to be like an Apple answer where you're like, listen, I know we
Yeah.
did
1 through
9,
10.
we
yeah.
did X, but then
Yeah.
we went to 14
Yeah.
just because we didn't like the other 3 numbers.
Didn't like the way it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It does
not
make
at all.
sense though. And
just
actually,
gets
it
too
honestly
confusing.
seems like even a little bit easier to like follow and track. Like, is that
Yeah.
the spring or is that the fall release? Right. Like,
100%, and putting a year on it, right? So
yeah.
that's spring
Yeah.
23. You can remember where you were.
Yeah.
It just assigns a time to it rather than just remembering
Sure.
all those numbers. So that'll be a great switch. And the big news is the Fusion series is going away
Yep.
because our 6-year origin, the stuff we started distilling in 2016, is turning 6 years old. That's going to be out in January. So that's
Okay.
going to be
Oh, nice.
the it actually bottled, believe it or not, it bottled today. So today was an
Oh,
awesome
wow.
day at the distillery. Everyone's really excited for our core bourbon, our wheated bourbon, and our rye to come out early next year. So we've never
I was
released something 100% distilled by our team.
so I was just talking to Ron about Origin today, like really briefly, and I was like, because I'm so excited to try those. The Disco series, the Fusion series going away didn't necessarily break my heart, right?
Right.
But because it's being replaced by this, Ron
Something
has been
else.
talking about this Origin series, I guess if that's the correct word, that's
Yeah.
going to come out, and we've been talking about it. And he's like, yeah, so this is going to phase out, and then these, but what we're doing is moving these 3 things in, and these 3 things, like he started talking about price points and kind of stuff like that, and it was like, price point wise, they're great, like incredible price point wise. And so I was talking to Ron about the Origin stuff today a little bit about like, when in the world can we drink it? How do we get a hold of it? You know what I mean? Because it was like, I love the idea that like Disco's staying, because literally some of the Discos are some of the like monster whiskeys of the year type whiskey. Like
We just had Discovery 3 blind in our advent, and I was like, I
Awesome.
forgot how good that whiskey is.
yeah, it's incredible.
Like, especially having it blind, me and Dan were just like, I don't know what that is other than just really good whiskey.
Well,
Yeah.
and with Disco 3, like the year, I don't even remember when it came out, probably 2-3 years ago or whatever. But whenever that came out, when Sean and I got it, we didn't even have a 2 at the time. We had drank it, but we didn't have a 2. And we drank the 3 and we're like, this is literally obtainable BTAC. Like there's like a bottle of whiskey that competes at such a high caliber of like how great a whiskey can be type thing. But it's not like completely impossible to find. It's not $1 million if you do find it, like that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy, like, especially now, even more so than before, but those whiskeys have like come and gone. Like that is not a normal thing anymore. So when you can find something like that and it's $130 or whatever, 150 even now, it's like, that's a great deal at this point in time.
Absolutely. And I think what we'll taste tonight with 9, where we're at in the series, you're hitting every time we make them. And I think about them, we're trying to make the whiskey of the year, right? That's the standard for Discovery, but with it, innovation, right? Getting creative on flavor profiles, trying to make something new. It goes right in the name, Discovery, right? Going out and finding new whiskey. But you're right. You can usually go out and find a Discovery on the shelf, it just makes me so happy to be able to see a quality product that's available like that.
Yeah. Are the Disco batches, are they like large volume wise? Like, is it like a 10,000 bottle thing usually, or is it like a 5,000 or 50?
They've slowly grown. That's a great question. For that reason, right? We've gone into more states, so we've grown proportionally. We're not trying to play the scarcity play, right? We want people that are fans of us to be able to purchase it. So this newest one that you're drinking, the 9, is pretty significant. It's about 6,000 cases.
Okay. Wow, that's so they're. I mean, are you guys in like 40 states? How many states is
24 markets, right?
24.
So you can kind of divide California into 2. DC's not really a state, but yeah, we'll probably stay at that number for the next couple of years.
Okay.
And then as our volume goes, our aspiration is to be a globally recognized brand, and we think we're right on track there.
Sure. Man,
Yeah,
that's
so-
crazy.
Yeah,
That's a
pretty
lot
cool.
of
I mean, to
pieces of
go
whiskey.
from not distilling and starting distilling in 2016 to where that is now, it's the right trajectory.
Well, and we've had the same weekly construction meeting. Every Wednesday we have a construction meeting. We say never stand still. We've never stopped building. From quadrupling the distillery to adding a full service bottling hall, 14 rick houses. We just purchased land across the street. And the most exciting thing we did this year, which we'll have to do another show on, is this bottle here when we picked up an incredible historic distillery, Green River, which we'll get into. That'll be hitting Michigan in 23. Just a really cool initiative there. So yes, never stand still.
So the Green River stuff, and I'm sure that at some point I'm going to ask you a question that you probably are going to be like, I can't answer that. That's perfectly fine. But the Green River
I'm
stuff,
shocked you haven't now.
Not
by
yet,
now, yeah.
Not yet. I mean,
transparency is one of our core.
Right, that's fair. So you guys or Bardstown recently purchased Green River because Bardstown's like legitimately turning into like the MGP of Kentucky, right? Like
I think about it's a great statement. I think of us as the opposite of MGP for a few reasons. So MGP does contract distillation. So if the three of us want to make a bourbon brand, we go to MGP. You basically are purchasing what they produce, but you don't get a say in the yeast, the mash bill, the flavor. What we do is front end. So you come in, custom distillation, 500 points of production. So you could select your proprietary yeast, your barrel, what it's coming off the still, every part of the process you can own, right? So you're not just buying it, someone's leftovers or something they've already made. You're involved. You're the chef coming in and using our kitchen. So it's the other side of the spectrum.
Here's
and I've seen you cook. They don't want it.
This is the problem. The problem is I'm like a shitty chef, right? So like the problem is like I need to lean on somebody. But I think the other thing that sets you apart, like, because when I say MGP of Kentucky or of Kentucky, I don't mean it as like obviously I don't mean it as a negative by any means. You're going
volume game.
But one of the things that set Bardstown apart is like the bottling line stuff that you guys are doing. Mm-hmm. The fact that like you guys started with your own brands, like the Bardstown Bourbon like Disco Infusions and now Origin and all these different things.
Contract distilling and then later got into your own labels.
Yeah, MGP has done like a seemingly horrendous job at marketing their own whiskey to market, right? Like under their own brand label or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they've made a lot of great whiskey. Like they just did it a different way. You know, there was a different approach set, but I think that what you guys the scale at which everybody's growing in Kentucky and whiskey, right? Like it seems like if somebody was like a $50 million distillery opened, you'd be like, of course it did, because like 20 of them did, right?
Yeah.
But the small ones.
Right. Yeah. But the thing that you guys have done is like the bottling line, it does have to do with the contract distillation portion necessarily. Like these almost could be separate businesses, right? Like you guys can offer bottling line separate from contract distilling, and you can offer warehousing separate than these other things. And it's like you guys have really spread yourself out seemingly in that market, but
no, you're spot on. I mean, our ideal is to take a customer and take them grain to glass, right? To source everything, age on site and bottle on site. But we also bottle for customers we don't distill for, and the same customization on the distillery you see in bottling. But really, the reason we picked up Green River, yes, it helps with the custom distillation, but the brand is such a great counterpoint to what we do at Bardstown. Bardstown is about modern innovation, pushing those boundaries. Green River, this DSP KY10, right? Goes back to the 1800s. Incredible history, amazing story, sits at a different price point, right? Just a really nice balance. And we were just thrilled to pick up that brand. I think you're going to see really big things from it next year.
So this is DL said they front load money and have to wait years for their custom product. Well, DL, that's called whiskey. That's
called business.
That's just like
if you open any business, that's how it works.
Well, especially with whiskey. I mean, if you want to sell moonshine, I guess you could, but The thing with Green River that I was going to ask was Is Bardstown or has Bardstown or does Bardstown currently use Green River in products that they right now put to market?
Great question. No, I would love to do, possibly, it won't be in the spring, but maybe in the fall 23, a discovery that
Okay.
incorporates some Green River with
Okay.
some, say, 6-year Green River in there in a small
Sure.
percentage. That would just be a cool way to unify the teams. But no, there's no Green River in any BBC products.
When the purchase happened with Green River, did Green River, like, is it the same people at Green River Distilling right now, or is it like a Bardstown team currently working on their equipment?
No, the great majority of the team is still in place.
Okay.
Wow.
Head distiller Aaron Harris, great history. You'll hear his name a bunch moving forward. He's running the show there.
Okay.
Great experienced team that's really getting it done there. Yeah, but
That's
essentially the same crew.
Interesting. When that like purchase took place, and then like when you find out, especially how much Green River was already kind of providing sourcing for brands, and then obviously like if you've been watching you guys, knowing how much whiskey you guys are putting down and bottling, and like I feel like more so lately, you can pick up so many bottles and it's like bottled at Bardstown Bourbon, like in Kentucky, because it's one of like the name is just completely exploding. Like it's the craziest thing to me.
It's wild. It really is to go into a spirits shop and go down the line and see how many products we're touching as a team is astounding. But we're learning, from that. Think how many master distillers and sensory teams are coming through, and we get to work together to innovate. If you come to our restaurant, there could be 5 different companies in there, because we're viewed as neutral ground. We carry everyone's bourbon. So it's become this community of whiskey, and we just learn a ton every day and apply it to our own products. So
that's so cool.
It's a different approach. It's very cool.
Well, it is different because one of the things that it reminds me of is like this rising tide ideology that like so many brands that we enjoy are like friends with some of them, or some of them we just like to drink their whiskey. We don't know them, but so many of them have some form of relationship and work with you guys as well. Like it's I think if like you guys published a list that was like, here's who bottles here, who's here we contract to still for, here's who have sourced other whiskey in the past, I think people would be like, there's no way. Like that's the list is freaking crazy.
Like
yeah.
And
you're
probably right.
Brands, like a lot of brands that people really love too. So,
and we sell a lot of them in our retail shop. The great majority celebrate that relationship, and you can see and talk to them, and it's like you say, it's like nothing else. And rising tide, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. Okay, so
the real question is, what's your favorite disco?
Oh yeah, which one of your children do you love?
You guys come down. I do a great thing that's honestly, it's just fun to see the results. When you come down, we'll blind all of them. It's a bit of a haul, but you can blind taste all of them and score them. And it's very interesting to see the results. Unsung hero often is number 1, proof down a little bit.
Okay.
The one that's always fresh in my head is the one I'm working on. So 9 right now, I'd say is my favorite. But there's some great ones. You just have to blind them. The cool thing about them is they're all. It's not a marketing line. Genuinely, they're all unique in their own way. Right?
Yeah.
They're completely distinct from each other. Some are soft. Like a 7 is to me the softer, rounder one. Where if you line it up, it might get blown out, where 8 is a ton of rye spice. If you like rye and you like fire, and it's got the stave finish on it, that's super complex. 9 is more traditional. 5 kind of hangs with 7 as soft and smooth. 6 to me is classic Kentucky, more like a cigar bourbon, smooth but deep and oaky. 4 is like, the ode to Kentucky. It's like 10, 13, 15 year. 4 and 2 are just the huge, to me, rich flavor bombs of the set. So they're all special in their own way.
So what we do, right, is we just visit like once a year, and then that blind becomes longer every year because there's a spring and fall. Eventually Dan's like, guys, there's 24 whiskeys for you to line up, and you're gonna need a driver before this. But
Yeah, you can go down trying. That's
right.
I welcome it.
Cool.
Well, if you want to, I'd love to get into like the deconstruction aspect of this because
Yeah, let's do it.
when Ron mentioned this, so this is actually something that we've a little bit. Ron and I have, and he didn't say that anybody agreed to this on Bardstown's end yet, but Ron did say that maybe it pours in the park. We might be able to do some form of like a deconstruction thing, like maybe for a small group or something like that down the road. And
Yeah.
I just think it offers an experience because like single barrel is like a bit like a huge thing, right? You put single barrel on it and then you sell it for $1 kajillion and everybody loves it. It's the best thing on the planet.
This highlights the person that's doing the blending.
Yeah.
You get to see what the intricacies that go into making a product onto a shelf.
It's more, I think this is more, I think blending's far more interesting.
Yeah.
Single barrels are just fun because you're like, that one was good, that one wasn't, that was good, call it a day. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like an in and out. That's like a fast food experience from a good fast food place. Whereas like blending is like you went, sat down, 18-course meal. You had you had some pretty good stuff, some mediocre stuff, some great stuff. You know what I mean?
But stuff you were like, you know what? I was never gonna eat that, but since it's already here, I gotta try it.
Yeah. But I think I think the blending aspect is more impressive to me than like somebody picking not necessarily distilling a single barrel, but picking a single barrel. So I think this is a really cool thing. We've never done it. I'd love to jump into it with you and get into this.
That sounds great. Yeah, let's do it. So we got
looking
Discovery
at these 4
9
whiskeys, like what was the first one that caught your eye that you wanted to work with?
Wait, how did you pick the first one?
Well, that's great. So with Discovery, my thought process, and it's changing a little bit, but at least for the last few, has been start with something, then flavor around it. With Discovery 9, it's really got the heart of it are 2 bourbons put together to make one flavor profile. Then the remaining 2 kind of add some complexity and depth and help out on the finish. But the core of Discovery 9 is that 13-year Kentucky bourbon. It makes up 31% of the blend. Mash bill is 75 corn, 13 rye, 12 barley. Pretty big Kentucky producer. We're not, when we purchased this whiskey, we would love to tell you who made it. We're unable to, but we always put the mash bill on the side, and then you can just Google who it is, and you might find a untamed bird.
Isn't it crazy that NDAs allow you to like still throw a mash bill in there and say it's from Kentucky, and then people are like, well, clearly it's X, and you're like, I can't tell you it's X, but if you found out that it was X, then you found out it was X. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So if you take this one, and I don't know if you've poured it yet, go ahead and pour it. It's really unique, and what I love about this whiskey, and we just got an opportunity to pick up some more, is how fruit forward it is. You could call it bright cherry, almost a watermelon note on there. For classic Kentucky bourbon, it's got tons of red fruit on it, which is pretty cool. Traditionally, this mash bill from this producer has a lot of spice and cinnamon.
This is just incredible.
This is just like lively, bright fruit, like a red Jolly Rancher with just tons of spice around it, right?
So here's the problem. Everyone would smell this and say they would just use barrel that, or just bottle that. Just bottle that.
Well,
and you're missing out on the rest of it.
That's like level number 1 of a blend. If you can't beat one of the bourbons by itself, then start over, right? So we're taking this and finding a way to improve on it. So if you taste that, and if it's cast strength, right? So this is coming in about 119, but you nose it. I just get all the fruit and spice and liveliness for a 13-year product. It has less barrel notes than you would think. Yeah, I love it.
When you said watermelon, I was like, I don't smell it. It tastes like a watermelon Jolly Rancher.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, that's wild. That's what I get.
I told you I get lost here, and I'm already lost. Okay. I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole. Which one was it? This one? Jeez.
No, that's mine.
Okay. Hold on.
That's mine.
So this whiskey, the 75 13 12 from Kentucky, this is something you said that you guys recently got more of.
I'm trying to buy all this I can. Yeah, I love it because it's so unique, right? To me, I mean, I hate to say it, but watermelon Jolly Rancher is spot on for it.
It's best way.
Yeah,
in the best way. And so it's not that simplistic, right? But that's one of the notes
Yeah.
That's on top of all that caramel and spice.
So with this, so this obviously, like, this is one portion of the blend. This isn't from a single barrel, obviously, with that big case of, like, that many cases from your guys' release. So, like,
Right.
you guys vatted X amount of barrels from this
A
distillery.
lot.
Yeah, so you buy a lot, and then you determine the best path forward of where those can go.
When you
Yeah.
buy a lot like that, like, how many barrels of that did you guys buy at one time?
It varies. Sometimes it could be, and like I say, we've got a legend, Susie Garvin, that goes after this for us, and
Okay.
she does all our distillery sales and picks this up. So
Oh, nice.
I don't want you to think I'm going out there and buying it.
Man,
But
that,
yeah, so there's varying sizes.
did you get a lot sample of that, and you're just crossing your fingers and
It's
praying
not a
to
honey
God
barrel?
that it wasn't sold already?
Yeah.
That's like, we've had well, I guess it's probably partially because it actually has, it feels not super often right now that you get aged product
Yeah.
from a sourcing market,
Especially not 13 years.
and
Yeah.
so it being from Kentucky and it having that age statement is why, like, this is incredible whiskey. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah. And because of the relationships we have and the team we have, we're able to go out and get some of the best whiskey on the market.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's, to me, you're looking at that flavor and you're thinking, how can I build around it? What the next one, the component that's listed first, that's 35%, is the complete opposite in many ways. While we started with a giant producer, this is a distillery from Georgia that no longer produces, that made 1 barrel a day. So there's
What?
huge
Yellowstone.
variability. Completely, again, an entirely unique flavor profile. If
And
you
they
think
don't
about it,
produce anymore.
they don't produce anymore. So we were buying
Really?
this, they were selling it, it was available. If you think about the 13-year Kentucky as being the top of the tree, bright, this 10-year Georgia is the bottom. It's earthy, it's rich, it's a lot of base on a bourbon. So yeah, go ahead.
For people at home, the mash bill on the Georgia 8-year is 80 corn, 10 wheat, 5 rye, and 5 barley. So it's a 4 grain actually, which is interesting.
Yeah, 4 grain. Yeah,
and a really high corn like content.
really high corn, which gives it some sweetness and viscosity, which is nice. 8-year, it has, to me, plenty of oak notes on it, but I think of it as a counterpart to the fruit. So really, Discovery 9 as a whole is based on putting these two flavors together. You kind of started there. At that point, you've got 66. You've got 2/3 of the blend is these two put together. So it's just so interesting to go back and forth between them.
Yeah, it smells like very drying and crisp comparative to the Kentucky bourbon.
Right. So when
I can't believe how dark it is. The Georgia whiskey is significantly darker than the Kentucky whiskey at like 4 years younger or whatever it is.
Have you tried? Have you drank it yet?
No, yeah, I just keep smelling it.
Super earthy.
Really?
Yeah.
Super earthy. Yeah.
It's got that like forest floor note.
Really?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's not what I expected off the
off the nose.
The nose at all.
Oh, not really.
Yeah.
Right. So you can see how these balance each other.
That's super interesting.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's like
It's
halfway
in the
it just
finish.
snaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell like it would be necessarily, almost like a
Herbal.
moss aspect to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like I said, like if someone threw you from the top of the tree
right now. We have pipettes.
I'm blending it without ratios. I'm just random blending.
Here, look, I'll tell you the ratios.
We call this wild card blending.
That's it, right? I think you could just do it 50-50 and you get the idea of putting these together, right? And then as the days and weeks go by, you dial in the right percentage to get it balanced to where you want it.
That Kentucky whiskey
Isn't that
just smells
interesting?
ridiculous. It is really interesting. So this is a very calculated scientific blend of the two. Would you like to smell them?
I already did.
Oh,
that.
okay.
It smells great.
Yeah.
Real quick. We got super chat. Tony Baganuss, Danny, you're an amazing host. I was so lucky to be part of one of these deconstructions for Disco 7. Says Tony.
Oh, cool. Disco 7 is the first time we used Canadian whiskey. And I just love it's a little softer than 8 or 9. But to me, just for a smooth sipper with a little sweetness on it, 7 is such a classic.
I like 7 a lot.
Yeah.
7 is fantastic.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh,
So
okay.
So yeah, with these two together, you've got two distinct notes. What we wanted to do, once you sip this, what it needed to me was improvement on the finish. Because that Georgia earthiness, it kind of dries out the finish. And what I've been doing a good bit is using Canadian whiskey from Ontario to add sweetness. So it's 100% corn. It's 12-year, but you can see the color is ridiculously light.
Yeah.
Even though the proof is up there, it's about 135 proof because it's in a secondary second use barrel. So when you smell this by itself, it's never going to be the most complex whiskey. It's really just sweetness and corn. Marshmallow and corn together, but just a ton of sugar. When you sip it, where the other things have kind of had a lot of tannin, which is that grip, stick, sizzle, and spice, that lingering, cloying dryness back here, the Canadian is just sweet, soft liftoff and will round out a finish and kind of balance the grip of a lot of tannin.
So this isn't. Canada's got weird rules. I don't understand all of them. So,
well, that's weird.
This is not. Would this be considered, or could it be considered like a light whiskey, or is this?
Yeah.
Could this be? It's not Canadian rye because it's not the right grain.
Well, it's corn.
So it's interesting to go off, not to go too far off the rails, but Canadian rye actually doesn't need to have any rye in it. It just has to be characteristic of rye.
What's up, dude? I knew that. That's why I asked that question. And me and Dan are on a team, and you're an idiot now. So
you did not know that.
I 100% definitely knew that without a doubt. You know what I mean?
It's 100% corn whiskey. He said it like 3 times. It says it on the bottle.
No, I know. I heard the 100%. I think, but I knew that Canadian didn't need rye, so I just went down that path.
Of
you know
course,
what I mean?
of course, you knew that.
Mm-hmm. So I lost you guys for a second. I think my internet cut out, but
that's probably ours.
Yeah, you're right. Doesn't need to be labeled that way. So 100% corn. So not a ton of complexity in the grain. The wood had less to give, right? Because it had already been used once. So you're getting less caramel, vanilla, baking spice. And what you're ending up with is a lot of corn flavor, but most importantly, sweetness that'll help in the finish. So if you take the two you put together, the Kentucky and the Georgia, that 66% of the blend, and just put a touch, I think the final percentage was 15. So just a touch of that Canadian, and really you don't want to overdo it. You just need a tiny bit. It's going to round out and sweeten up the finish.
Yeah, that is like,
just
it hits the center of your tongue, and it just like hits like sugar and fire.
It reminds me of like really, I don't want to say calm or like chill because of the proof on it, but it reminds me of like a calmer light whiskey. It's not as in your face as a lot of Canadian light whiskey is, but like the Obtainium product is what comes to mind when I think light whiskey. That's why I'm saying that.
You think it hazmat.
Right.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even drink anywhere near like a hazmat, but it's weird because it doesn't taste just like sweet corn. Like,
but it is a little sharp though. Like
for sure by itself.
Well, yeah. And the proof is way up there. You know, it's close to 140. So we'll bring this down, and you can add a little water, and you'll get rid of some of that ethanol. But
I tell you what,
sugar,
cornbread.
I have so far perfectly recreated this blend.
I'm sure you have, buddy. I'm sure you have.
But honestly, with my poor measuring skills, so far it smells good.
Your poor pouring skills.
My poor pouring skills. Yeah. Now,
so that's it. So you've got the watermelon, you've got the earth.
Yeah.
Now we've rounded out the finish, and then we're just going to add a final layer of complexity because there's only 4 whiskeys in this discovery. It's really all it needed, which is a 17-year Tennessee, a polarizing whiskey to be sure, but when used in a blend, it adds something magical.
Okay? So, Ron, this is not a trap, but Sean and I, without saying where it's from in Tennessee, are not fans of a lot of products from said distillery.
I can tell you exactly where that's from.
That being said,
I smelled it.
That being said, we are actually a fan of a product from that distillery.
Yeah.
And it blew our minds that we were a fan of it.
Yep.
Now, I just, going into this, I was nervous when I heard that this was back.
Yeah, and I think people, it's funny. We get more pushback from using Tennessee than we do Canadian, which is a really interesting.
That
I can see that.
But Chattanooga, like some Tennessee's actually great.
Honestly. Oh yeah, we love Chattanooga.
Yeah, especially Chattanooga.
To be fair, the personality and flavor profile of this, and I'm all for distilleries having personality, right?
Sure.
So they taste different, readily identifiable. To me, you always hear citrus, Flintstone vitamins. To me, it's a payday candy bar. It's just peanuts, exactly like a caramel peanut on this. So with a touch of orange zest.
The thing I get from that place is this minerality.
Yeah, and that's where the Flintstones. Yeah,
it's like
I think that tastes better than it smells.
I completely agree with that.
I don't like the nose, but I don't mind the palate on that. Actually, it's super smooth.
It's it's like weird. It not weirdly oaky because it's really old.
It's like a slightly funky chocolate bar.
That's what he was kind of saying. Like it's chocolate covered. Like
yeah.
Okay,
I get a payday. Yeah.
You can get if you've never had a chocolate covered payday.
I think that's a different candy bar.
That's thing is called Baby Ruth.
Yeah, there you
go. Real quick, ADHD whiskey, Matt Porter, aka World Top Whiskey Taster, I believe #1.
Yeah.
Just want to interrupt to say hi to Danny. Hi, Danny. Miss your scent. That's what he said. So,
man, I hope you come and we can hang out soon, Matt. I love to see you at the distillery.
Danny, thoughts on blending more of Matt Porter's blend?
Let's do it.
Holy shit, that thing was good.
That just scored really, really high for us. We did a
Burr Rye blend.
Yeah.
And it literally won for me out of every Burr Rye of the year so far that we've tried. So
he is the world's top whiskey taster. So he's backing it up, right?
It's weird. Like we've had a few different blends from him, and I don't believe that he actually has any training whatsoever. None. Zero as far as I read a book or two. I'm sure. And he's a beautiful man, but that he can blend whiskey incredibly well. He's just good at it. He is.
Some people are born with it,
Yeah. And Matt was 100% born with it. It's a natural talent for Porter. Real quick, Tennessee Jed said, question for Dan, do you proof down individual whiskeys before adding them to the blend?
Yes and no, depending on what stage it is. In this stage, looking at flavor profiles, no. But as it moves ahead, and if you're thinking this aligns really well, then you would kind of find where you want it to be, proof them down, and determine the percentages that way. But you can do it both ways. But say, for example, this Canadian that has so much heat to it, I would go ahead and proof it down as I got into the next stages, just to see how it interacts, and flavors will change dramatically with proofing. Discovery as a whole, it started out being or in that 120 range. I really like where it sits around, depending 114, 116 in there, I think is a great spot. We don't want to lose the weight by lowering it too much and making it too watery, but taking off that top 5% of heat really opens up a lot of the flavor.
Okay.
And you have some contrast with the 92 proof and 135 proof between the Tennessee and the
yeah, exactly. That Tennessee is naturally really low. Yeah, you're right.
So, and I have a question to ask, but I'm kind of answering my own question. I just want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
Did you add the 17-year-old Tennessee whiskey to give it like an oak backing?
100%. Yeah, oak, right?
What else would you be adding 17-year whiskey in for?
Literally, Dan just said, if you want to come work at Bardstown, under me as the other...
you can have him. You can fucking have him.
We can be adjacent. You don't even have to go under. You're good.
I think it's a week before they get rid of you.
Hopefully a whole week. That'd be great.
I know this hasn't sat for very long, but how much of that Kentucky bourbon still shines through for me, and our little mixture that we have going here.
Yes,
that sweetness is just like it pops so much.
Yeah. I love, and that's the next one we're doing is a ton of is about 6 whiskeys. It just needed 6, but if you can do it with 4. That's my favorite, 3 and 4 whiskey blends, because you can sit there and just see each piece of it, and they each play a role. We're not trying to jam up the flavor profile to add them just to add them. each of these four has a really clear purpose in the circle.
That's really okay. This isn't. I'm not actually didn't just drink real Disco 9. I just drank like my Frankenstein, like Disco like 7.6 or whatever.
Yeah,
those four together. I did just do a little bit of Dickel, and I did probably more Canadian whiskey than I definitely did more than I was supposed to.
It can be a bully. Yeah, you gotta go easy.
Just a little. Like the proof, you can feel the proof, like because the Canadian whiskey is so hot.
Good. Mine's actually mixed right.
Your smells great.
Someone had asked, they said, would you ever do a disco with Japanese or Scotch whiskey?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's on the list. I would love to do it. We did the For Cullen blend, this guy, which is 80% a bourbon blend, 20% 21-year Irish whiskey. It's only available at our distillery. This was one of the most fun projects I've been a part of, traveling over to Powers Court, working with Noel Sweeney, the distiller there, to put this together. So yes, I love the idea of experimenting with different international whiskey types on a discovery. Maybe something for the fall or 2024.
How crazy is it? It for some reason just hit my brain. How crazy is it that people are more turned off by the word Tennessee and whiskey next to each other than they are Canadian whiskey when there's not a damn rule to be found in that whole country when it comes to whiskey?
Yeah, because apparently you can have 100% corn whiskey and call it rye.
I told you that, but so it's just like because Tennessee Distilling Co. makes good product that I shouldn't say good or bad, makes product that we do enjoy. Chattanooga makes a lot of good products that we enjoy, and there's only one place in Tennessee that we don't often enjoy. The rest of the ones we've had from Tennessee we've actually liked.
But they still have some products we do enjoy.
That they have one, yeah.
They
have one, but
finish it.
You're right, though. There's just an association there. The guys and girls at Chattanooga are incredible. There's amazing distillery talent across the state. For certain profiles, they may be not everyone's favorite in the blend, but I love it coming in right here at 19%. Gives it that oak finish that it needs. I mean, you can try it both ways. The complexity and the finish and the base, it's drastically improved by adding the Tennessee to the mixture.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna pour. Okay, now I've had all four. I'm gonna pour the real Disco 9.
Yeah. If you beat the real Disco 9, let me know your percentages.
If I beat it, they're about this much of the first one.
You got better odds of recreating it than Dan does.
Blindly, actually. How many blends let's talk like spring 2023.
Yeah.
When you say I'm going to blend spring 2023, do you blend like 15 things and then you're like, man, 3 of those were really good? Or do you blend like 2 and then work on those 2 ratio wise? Or
you mean,
options of whiskeys?
Yeah.
That's 2 questions in itself.
It is 2 questions.
Because it's first, so do you make, if you have like 6 different options that you're blending out of, you do like a couple blends from each thing, or you use all 6 or like that kind of stuff?
No, you're spot on. I'll look at total available, which is usually about 10 that we can put in at any given time.
Okay.
And then start seeing what lines up, right? And pick same way we found this earthy and this fruity flavor profile and made something. I knew I had something then, right? And I knew I could build around it. So it's just experimenting. But the options, once you start stacking, the spring will have 6 different whiskeys in it. You really get into a lot of possibilities and avenues, right? Yeah.
So then, say Disco 9, you had your 4 options that you had set. How many different iterations did that go through before you got to your final blend?
I was trying to put rye with it for the longest time. I thought it needed this 955 rye, and you kind of convince yourself it needs something that it doesn't, and then stripped it back to 4 and just worked out the percentages and found that balance. Yeah. So it's fortunate to have a time frame that it bottles, because otherwise you could just sit there infinitely and keep working on it.
Do you know what it would be like random one time is you're like, listen, I use 20 different whiskeys in this freaking blend. And then this side of the label is just like the whole freaking side of the bottle. and
Yeah.
it's like
They have to make a new
5%,
label.
8%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like
It
just
could fold
for the
out.
sake of having an obnoxiously tall
Right.
label on the side of the bottle. But
Yeah.
that's
I,
6
yeah.
even sounds like a lot.
lot.
Like honestly, like
yeah.
Is that
it
the most you've
That's the most we've
used
ever
so
done.
far?
Yeah, 6 is the most. We've done 5.
Okay.
And it gets down, the last one's 2%, but you really, I was trying it both ways, and I'll have our executive chef Stu Plush come up and try it and say, yeah, it tastes better with this 2% in there. So
Sean and I had the OKI Reserve, I think was the correct name for it this year.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
On
They
the
had
front of
50
the
things in there.
Yeah, on the front of the bottle, it has like the mash bills or whatever's it making up the recipe. And
Do you remember the lowest one?
one of them was like
0.8.
Was it 0.8? I was gonna
0.8%.
say
Oh, really?
0.5.
Yeah.
But it was so little, right? And you look at a label and you're like, this release wasn't 500,000 bottles. It wasn't Jack Daniel's Black Label, right? So that blend 0.8 probably is almost no whiskey
couple drops.
at all,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
It is, but that bottle's incredible. It's incredibly
Yeah.
well blended. The bottle turned out. Well, Sean and I loved it. I don't know if everybody in the planet loves it, but Sean and I love it a lot. And it was like one of those things where it's like it would be so interesting to know what that point X added.
Yeah.
Right. Like you
Yeah.
just, it's interesting to, I guess, have the two in front of you and go, listen, I just prefer
One's
the one
better,
that's
yeah.
got the little bit in it. It just is what it is. But
Yeah. And you got to, the flavor dictates it, and it doesn't always go the way you think. But if you chase the flavor, you will be successful. So,
Sure.
yeah, that's how it goes.
what's your, you were going to say something far more important than my question.
I
No,
just had
not
a
at
dumb
all.
one too, but keep
let's go
going.
with
You
the
had a dumb question?
Oh yeah.
Okay, here, I'm going to do my dumb question first.
Perfect.
My dumb question is, what's your favorite part of when you drink or smell, it could be nose or taste of whiskey, when it comes to like, do you personally prefer like the finish on the whiskey, the front of the palate, the nose of the whiskey, like maybe how it changes while you're drinking it? Well, like what's your favorite part of whiskey?
Great question.
Mine was gonna be
It probably varies. The nose is probably a cue in a lot of the time, but the finish is everything in a lot of ways. Like, so nose is what I think about the most, but if your finish is not up to par, you've got nothing, right? So it's got to be balanced. It's got to be beautiful. It's got to be interesting. So I think I lead with the nose, and then to be a final product, you've got to nail the finish. Yeah.
My question was going to be, what do you lean more on, flavor or like experience? Because they're somewhat linked together for me, but we know people that are wildly more about the experience that the whiskey gives you than, ultimately, is it minutely better in flavor than, something else?
Do you mean like experience how you feel when you drink it, or the whole tasting experience?
The whole experience of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say flavor is a component of start to finish. So if you incorporated the aroma, the palate flavor, and the finish as one unified picture, if it can't tick all three, and I think you see with Discovery 9, it ticks all three of those. I think everyone as standard kind of breaks flavor into those three: aroma, palate, finish. That is a complete whiskey if you can hit those. And then with Discovery, it's got to be unique. It's got to be innovative. You've got to be discovering something.
Well, no, it is like that different every time type thing, right? And
I think that's what's awesome, though.
I do too. Well, and somebody else that does that is Barrel, right? Barrel Bourbon Company does that as well, where batch to batch, they're different from one another. The thing that I think that you guys do so incredibly well, because they do a lot of things really well, but the thing that for me really sets it up, like the Bardstown stuff apart, is Disco specifically, is like this blend on the side can be like a tell if I want to try it at a bar, if I want to pick up a bottle today, right? I see a lot of Barrel in stores and to buy for around $100 or whatever it is. And then you don't necessarily know how much of what's in it, but on the back, it does say like, this is Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, New York, Georgia, whatever. But this being on the side and saying like, it's this percent in this, and it's like, okay, so when you say that it's those four things, that doesn't mean that it's 95% 17-year-old Tennessee whiskey, right?
Right,
and
right.
I think from like a consumer perspective, not from your guys' end, not from the distillery or the whatever, but from a consumer perspective, how much this adds to like this little tiny square of the percentages and where it's from, how much that adds to the purchasing, not power, but like I'm willing to spend money on it knowing that it's something not 95% Tennessee, and I'm willing to take a risk on whiskey that's different.
But you would buy if it said 95% Canadian. We know
that. If it said 100% corn, I'd be like, that's probably Canadian rye, and I'd be right every time. You know what I mean? But
no, you're right, and I'm telling you that just extends to the entire company, right? So when you come in and you see the distillery, we feel like as a consumer, the more you can know about what you're experiencing, the more you can connect with it, right? So when you're drinking this Discovery 9, you can now look up the Georgia distilleries and look up that 4-grain mash bill and think about the aged Canadian. It just makes the experience complete to me, rather than just wondering what went into it.
Yeah. No, I think that I just think it's such a cool thing that sets you guys apart in an industry that's so buried in like lying and bullshit and whatever else. But
I like how you just not even.
It is. It's all like there's so much
smoke
bullshit
and
in the
mirrors.
industry. It's crazy.
Smoke and mirrors, right?
It
We
is.
want to pull that away. So
yeah. From a consumer perspective, I think that it's a very welcomed, refreshing idea. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
But so I get more of the Tennessee whiskey. So this is Disco 9. I'm drinking Disco 9 now.
Oh, you got the real thing. Okay.
I get the Disco 9 on Disco 9. I get the Tennessee whiskey on the nose. On the palate, though, I almost don't get it at all. And then the back, like the finish, feels like it lingers almost solely because of that whiskey. Not in a bad way. Like the lingering aspect that has more of like an aged, not youth, not super bright, fruity forward note. Like the finish is just different than that. I like love how it drinks. I genuinely love how it drinks. I get just a little bit of the Tennessee whiskey on the nose and almost none of it when I drink it. Like almost zero, which is crazy.
Yeah. And when we make the blend, I think some of those notes we do want to be picked up on the nose, right? We certainly aren't putting in there just to hide it. And it is there in a small bit. I think those watermelon cherry notes really carry over too. The Georgia certainly carries over on the front and the finish. And then the Canadian, less of a prominent flavor, but makes the whole palate and finish experience rounder and richer.
Yeah. Okay. So individually, is the Kentucky your favorite? Individually, which whiskey of these is your favorite?
Yeah, the Kentucky. If I was going to sip one,
just one alone. You know what I mean? Without blending.
Absolutely.
It's definitely wild to taste everything separated out though.
Okay, I genuinely. So Sean, we have had this happen. We have had not this to this level of this experience one time. Sean and I, Penelope, the brand Penelope. So Mike and Danny, our friends, family friends, channel friends, whatever you want to call it. And Mike and Danny, we sat down and we did a blend with Mike and Danny, and we were going to do a toasted blend and a not toasted blend. And Sean blended this. They do almost all 4 grains, and most of it's obviously MGP, right? So, we did this 4-grain blend that was like this really high wheat profile blend. And then Mike was like, "Do you want to try new barrels? Like, we can like keep that one, and then let's try some new vatted barrels and see if you come up with a better blend or one you like more or less, and then we can decide which one you want to toast." So, long story short, we ended up toasting the high wheat blend. We ended up doing 2 toasted barrels, same char. They were dumped into these secondary barrels, same day, everything, right? They sat next to each other on the same level, like literally as close to the same thing as possible. They were the exact same blend from the same vats set into 2 barrels. So we got samples of the barrels, and one of the barrels was like absolutely horrendous, right? And one of them was like,
one of them was amazing.
One of them was like, holy shit, that's really good.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, it had a full barrel of whiskey that we didn't like.
Yeah, and this is like 4 months into like the toasting situation. It was a level 2 char, I think. So it was a lower char. So the intention was it was going to take a little bit longer. So we're sitting there, and Just put him outside.
Just being real needy tonight.
So we have a pole barn cat, and he lives in here. So these two barrels are sitting next to each other, and I'm talking to Mike on the phone, and he goes, "What do you think of the samples?" I go, "Dude, if I'm being completely honest with you, one of these is great, and one of them's fucking horrendous. Like, I don't know what we're gonna do."
We need to do something.
I said, "Are you okay with us just like let's just rip this thing to eternity and see how it turns out after you know more months or whatever? We'll see if it ages out." Okay. And Mike goes, "Do you mind if I let Danny's blender for Penelope? Do you mind if I let Danny
fix it?
Just play with them and just like maybe we blend them instead of doing two different, single barrels, maybe we blend them together." And I'm like, whatever, let me know. So 5 days later, something like that, we have samples of 3 different blends. And there's like 1, 2, 3. I'd taste the first one, second one, third one. I'm like, first, it's not even close. Like the first one's incredible. So I get on the phone with Danny and Mike. Sean drinks through them. We agree the first one. We like the first one. Get on the phone with Danny and Mike, and I go, what's in each of the blends? And Danny goes, well, number 2, I had added some more wheat from a different vat. And then number 3, I'd added more whatever. And then number 1 is actually your 2 barrels blended together. And I'm like, Danny, there's no way in hell that our second barrel in that blend. And he goes, swear to God, there's nothing added to that. It's just those 2 barrels.
Right.
And that was the very first time it ever became hyper apparent that like the things that you really don't like about one specific whiskey or a barrel of whiskey or, a vat of whiskey or whatever can definitely be altered to a point.
It'll change a lot in a blend.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be hidden necessarily, but complemented or worked around or whatever the correct wording is. But
that's exactly right. Yeah. So, and when we buy whiskey, we're thinking like that, what can this pair well with? Maybe, we do a ton of finishes, whether it's Foursquare rum coming up or Goose Island. Maybe this whiskey needs a little fruit, so it would work well with a Napa Cab or, a little funk. So get a Jamaican rum with it, or Barbados rum in Foursquare.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the rum one you guys did that I believe is
plantation rum. Yeah, that's the one.
Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah,
so good with the cigar. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's a classic example of a Tennessee flavor profile being used in a different way. It was released during the summer, and it just had this real fruit, funky vibe for a bourbon, and people love it. I love it. It's awesome,
dude. We were sitting outside, and Ron pours that. Didn't tell me anything about it. I drank it.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot. And the intention was to smoke a cigar. And so then I grabbed a cigar, cut it, lit it. And then Ron hands me more of the rum finished whiskey. And I drink it again. I go, holy shit. It's like incredible with this cigar. And he goes, isn't it? And I go, yeah. And Ron knows that Sean and I are not the biggest tenant, like from that specific distillery.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's from there. And I'm like, no way is that. And he's like, I'm 100% serious. I'm like, that's why. But Barrel Dovetail was like that for Sean and I, where Barrel Dovetail is very heavy on that from that distillery. And it's great. Yeah. Even alone, without a cigar, whatever. It's just sometimes those things work out. You know what I mean? But
yeah. Well, if they all worked out the way you thought, I'd probably be out of a job. So it's good.
Fair.
It keeps it interesting. But yeah, just finding the ways flavors can match in creative, unexpected products it's what I love.
So let's talk about Disco 9, by the way. I think is super crushable in a great way. It's sweet. That sweetness, you can definitely tell that the sweetness from that Kentucky whiskey, trying the Kentucky whiskey alone, you can 100% taste that in it, and I love it.
Yep.
That whiskey is so good alone, and in this blend, it stands out in the best way.
I think the Georgia bourbon becomes really apparent too, like what you're talking about, like the little bite on the side of your tongue, where I can get those drier, crisper, mossy notes. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Yep, and it kicks in about 7 seconds after you drink it. That Pop Rocks feel. Yeah,
get some texture.
Is it the Georgia whiskey that's balancing out the Tennessee whiskey?
Maybe.
It's that weird earthy flavor that came off just the Georgia whiskey that didn't come off any other whiskey at all. Almost removes the minerality of the Tennessee whiskey. I think entirely.
The chocolatey, the
you
oakiness.
Do. Yes. I get the oak and the chocolate 100%, but I don't get the The sour, I call it sour. I call
Yeah.
that distillery. I just call sour.
Yeah,
I don't
can
get the
smell it,
sour
but I don't
note
taste
at
it.
all.
You said that.
Mm-hmm.
When I drink it, like none. It's 0. And I did get the sour note when I drank it alone, like this individual
Right.
sample.
Right.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah,
It is
they
really
play off each other. Absolutely.
This is officially the second blend of whiskey that I believe we've ever had that we really enjoyed that had that whiskey in it.
Yeah.
And the other one was like a Widow Jane 14-year, some random.
Oh yeah, that was.
We had it like blind and had no generally.
Because that's 3 different. That was like Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee, all
In New
blended
York,
together.
I think too.
Oh, maybe yeah.
Because Widow Jane's New York.
In New York, yeah.
Mhm. But no,
Yeah.
this Disco 8 is actually in my head. We have not blinded all of them. When we come down there with you, we'll blind. That would be
Okay.
incredible to blind all of
100%.
them.
Let's do it.
Disco 8 is actually among one of my favorite discoveries ever released. I put it
Me
top
too.
3 for me.
Just it's so funny. That was such a labor of love that you how those it's a specific blend of staves that went to match the blend of rye and bourbon. So it was certainly the hardest I've worked on a discovery, and it's to me the most complex. It's got a lot of fire and heat, and it's really spice forward. Not so much heat ethanol, just
Yes.
pop.
Warmth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're a rye drinker, I think it really resonates.
Yeah. When Disco 8 came, and I like 7 a lot too.
Yeah.
When 8 came out, and I think Ron was the one that had told me about the stave aspect of 8. And it was
Mhm.
after I had drank it, I'm like, that feels like it makes way more sense. I love toasted whiskeys.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the stave aspect like adds a little bit of that.
Complexity.
It
Yeah.
does.
And I love
does.
it.
And it's funny with 8, we couldn't fit everything in the traditional way. So we popped a QR code on the other side so you can see the staves and the percentage of
really?
each stave that went in there. Yeah, because we want to
I
make
didn't
sure
know
we
that.
Cool.
Yeah,
I
so
didn't
that
know that
takes you to
either.
the stave blend
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was just way too much to fit on the label.
Oh,
I'm the
I've
worst
never
consumer of all
noticed
time.
that.
Can I tell you why we're even worse consumers? Because it even
Probably
says
scan this QR code.
no, it's way more specific. Next QR code it says learn more about Discovery 8 stave blending process. We're the worst consumer. This is insane that this works at all. This is crazy.
Wow.
But
I mean,
no,
I knew the whole time.
8. I am like a mega fan of 8. I love 8 so much.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
And honestly, from a perspective of changing blend to blend, 9 is honestly fantastic.
Yeah.
Drinking 9, especially after we do have this really cool experience. It sounds like if you go to Bardstown in Kentucky, you can do the deconstruction, right?
Yeah, we offer it every now and then, kind of when the Discovery comes out.
Okay.
We have about 10 different tour experiences that are all breaking down different profiles in different ways and pairing with food. I'll do the Discovery deconstructed kind of regionally. I'll going out to Denver, doing it there, and
Okay.
I'll definitely be by our markets this year doing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ron said, so when are we taking a trip to Kentucky? Liquid IV is a must if we're going to blind Disco 1 through 9. We happen to work with Liquid IV, so this would be a perfect match. We got Z-Biotics. Oh, no.
You got both.
Party
Good job.
foul. We got Z-Biotics for before and Liquid IV for after and during. That's perfect. So
Awesome.
Just seasoning the
Yeah.
table. It's fine.
Would love to host you guys down and set that up. I think it'd be fun to see what you pick.
we did recently, for the first time, see your guys's rick house with is it glass?
Mhm.
Is that glass?
Yeah, that's
That is
beautiful.
The coolest rick house I've ever seen.
Wild.
It's wild. So in about 5 years, we'll have a glass finish, or call it the Sunset Series that is all whiskey aged in that window. Proof is going to go way up. Flavor's going to pop. It's their barrels are in there currently. We're just going to wait about.
If you guys
5
haven't
more
seen
years.
it, Google some pictures of that. It is very, very cool.
We've also got an amazing speakeasy in another rick house. We've got a vintage library with entire history of bourbon and rye dating back to 1892. It's just an amazing place to spend the day, do experiences, get a meal. There's no better place on the trail.
That is so cool. Well, and the restaurant to follow all that up too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, Joe said, as a fellow Marylander, probably not right.
It's not a word, Joe.
Can we get some Maryland whiskey in the future disco?
Not. It could be in the cards. I've looked at some Maryland whiskey not too long ago. So
Listen,
I
we know
I
you're gonna
went.
make a really
we
good
know
ride.
a guy. Weirdly, that's the one place that we know a guy. You know what I mean? Is
do know
in
a
Maryland
guy.
at that place that he's referencing.
Yeah.
Um.
So would love that. Love the state. Went to Towson High School, so right there, a little north of Baltimore.
Oh, really?
He said
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
when he moved there when he was 11. Did you not hear his
Wow.
backstory?
Yeah, I heard the
Come
England part and
on.
the sommelier part. Dude, listen, you have lived a crazy life. Has anybody ever told you that?
Yeah. I the music thing gave me a lot of opportunity to travel.
Yeah.
And I met my wife in China of all places. We were on the same
Oh,
music team.
really?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Why you were in what? Around what age did you meet your wife?
Let's see. I was probably 27.
How long were you? When did you leave? So you left England when you were pretty young then?
11.
So
Yep. And then Baltimore, and
At
then
11. Okay.
went to music school, and then down to Louisiana.
So you got into music really early.
whole family.
Yeah. I went to college for it, and that's what I always wanted to be, a musician initially. And
Right,
I
but
found
for
whiskey.
somebody to get into like serious music at 11's wild. It seems like that's
My dad's a musician. I grew up playing the piano. I was playing music.
oh, you can play the piano too? Oh my
A
god.
little bit, yeah.
Okay, hold
Some
on.
people are just talented at things. Right?
Seriously, everything apparently. You can blend whiskey, you can play the piano, you can
Have
play
you ever
the trumpet.
failed at anything? I'm just
many
wondering.
things, many things. We have a distillery basketball team, and I don't think I could. I can't shoot and I can't jump, even though I'm pretty tall. But
Gosh, well, you got everything else going on. It kind of is the only way to even it out, right? Like,
I guess that's it.
real quick, we'll catch up on super chats real quick. Final question. Hop Hayes says, Dan from BD, what wine would you pair with Disco 9?
That's an
Wait, are
awesome
you
question.
pairing wine with
Wine
whiskey,
whiskey?
Hop Hayes? What, like,
I don't normally. I've never paired a wine with a whiskey,
I
but
thought
you
it was
would
going to be a
need
food question, if
Yeah.
I'm being honest, but
you'd need something massive to hang with a Discovery. A lot of wines, almost all of them would get run over. So maybe a big Rioja, something with a ton of American oak. Something big.
real quick, Cask and Ashes said, y'all are the best. Thanks for a fun night, and thanks to Dan for a great whiskey. 100%.
Cheers.
Without a doubt.
Appreciate it.
Matthew Miles said, BJ's asked Dan about the golf cart and white bucket.
Yeah, I run around with a white bucket to get samples and drill into the golf cart. So, or not drill into the golf cart, drill into the barrels. So driving around on that.
That's perfect.
I just assume it's like a 5-gallon bucket. He's like, all right, come get some whiskey, guys.
You know what I'd love to do is drive by the new glass front Rick house, and you're just driving a golf cart next to it, and then we just see you jump out with a DeWalt drill and just.
It's honestly pretty spot on.
Oh, they got Milwaukee there, bro.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for doing this with us.
Yeah,
this
100%. Thank you so
this
much.
was really freaking cool, for real.
It's awesome. I hope it's the first of many times we can get together and
For
try
sure.
some whiskey.
We will 100%. We
Have to set some time.
need to come down. We go to Kentucky a handful of times. We were going to Kentucky like once a month for a while, but
Or
the
twice.
thing is like when we go down, we go do a pick and we come back. We go to a pick and we come. It's like a 1 or 2 day thing. It's never like a week thing or anything like that. And Ron was like, we've been in Kentucky. Ron's obviously up in Michigan. We've been in Kentucky while Ron was in Kentucky and not seen any of you guys. You know what I mean? And Ron's like,
Mistakes were made.
you guys are bad friends. Like that's what it comes down to. But we appreciate you coming on here and doing this. And Ron organized a lot of this, made a lot of this happen, which is really cool. So shout out to Ron, who's in chat right now. I know he's traveling, but
yeah, Ron's my hero. He is the man. If you were in Michigan, get to know Ron, and he
100%
does great work for Bardstown Bourbon.
Do you know what Ron did before this? Like, thank God he got this job.
Yeah.
Do you know what his job was before this?
I've seen some pictures. Him in the NFL looking pretty intense.
He was a scout for the worst team in the NFL.
Well, I think he was the Patriots before the Lions.
Oh, that makes what? No
We're not
wonder
even the
Ron's
worst
good at
anymore.
this. Goodness
We're
gracious.
second in the conference right
When
now.
I found out that Ron was like a scout for the Lions, I'm like, holy shit, man. Like, and it's not all Ron's fault, but I'm gonna give Ron shit.
If I had to tell you at the beginning of the season, the Lions would be doing better than the Packers.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't say nay.
No, I would have said no. I would have
that's
bet
not
you money on
gonna
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
this is
Ron stopped
okay.
scouting and Lions are going up, it seems like.
That's I never put that together. That's wild that you just said that, and that's so true. Holy shit. So somebody asked CJ asked this earlier, and I wanted to ask you with the Origin series. I know you guys. Can you explain to everybody in chat how you guys do picks currently, and then are you going to do picks of the Origin series? It's 2 questions.
Yeah. So the way we do currently is phasing out. It's a futures pick, so it's our young stuff because we didn't have a 6-year product. So you would pick it young, wait for it to age out. So like a Bordeaux future, a wine future, you buy in, you wait. We're switching now, starting in 2023, to a traditional single barrel program. Incredibly limited in 23. It'll scale up a bit in 24, get to a larger volume in 2025, but it'll be 6 year of our core Origin series bourbon.
Oh, so there'll be Origin picks then at that point.
That's what it is. Yeah, it's our
awesome.
6 year will be the Origin pick. Yeah, so you can come in and it'll be bottled that year. Moving away now that our whiskeys come of age into the core product, but we'll do it in a very modern way where we'll involve a lot of flavors, diagrams of kind of what your barrel, what that's bringing to the table, running it through different lab equipment. So it'll be great. It'll be tiny at first.
I knew that you guys were doing like the future barrel program, which is super interesting because obviously I don't know anybody else doing that at the moment.
No.
Yeah, it was a cool one, and it was a way to reward kind of our biggest fans because they're getting barrels unlike anything else.
Right.
But
well,
yeah.
And what a cool thing to like follow. If you get to go do a pick and then you get to follow the journey of the barrel of whiskey.
Oh yeah.
It's a very cool thing, right? Like in a very you can't do it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Where else are you going to go follow even 1 to 2 years of how a barrel grows and changes and whatever, right?
That's exactly right. So it's kind of a way to engage with our early adopters, and it's a unique program and really special one. We may bring it back, you never know, but
right.
It's phasing out currently to go to the traditional model.
Yeah, I was going to say, but at the same time, when you got like great 6-year whiskey, like
they also said limited. Yeah. How limited is for Bardstown, right? You know,
limited. And actually,
we're doing 200 this year.
Yeah, Dan's like, I'm here to announce that we're spending $500 billion on expanding. Oh man, you guys are killing it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, cheers.
You guys are killing it.
Appreciate that.
It's crazy. It's wild. It's cool to see. It's cool to see people do really well, and it's cool to see brands do really well who are focused on like a consumer and transparency perspective. There's plenty of the other, right? There's plenty of brands who are like cash grabby and whatever else, whatever the words are, but there aren't a lot of brands who are like, let's tell people what they're buying, and then not like through COVID. Shit got crazy. Like
gouge the ever living shit out of them.
Secondary skyrocketed, right? Shelf bottles have skyrocketed. This year is the year of the $250 premium bottle of whiskey, period.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
$75 to $85 entry.
Our core bourbon is going to come out at $44.99.
Yeah,
right? That's the MSRP. So
when Ron told me that, I was like, what the hell did you just say to me?
You guys are like going backwards. Like everyone else is like taking their 6-year product and we're like, I guess we just want to.
You know what the difference is? Is you guys are doing legacy distillery shit while the newer brands are doing cash grabby stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yep. 100%. From the beginning, our goal has been to have that quality 6-year bourbon, and all of this is supports that Origin series that's coming out soon. So yeah, we got to come down and see it.
We 100% will. So this is more for people in chat than for the conversation's sake, but not everybody knows, but Ron has been incredibly cool about helping and being a part of our thing and Bourbon Junkies and a lot of stuff we've been doing, and it's been invaluable. And then on top of that, because of Ron, like relationships have been made, and we've talked to people who we'd never be able to talk to otherwise. And Sean and I started a spirits company. We started trying to start a spirits company like a year and a half ago, but we announced it this year. And one of the things, like Ron was really helpful in some of that with some people at Bardstown, which is really fucking cool. That somebody at a scale at your guys' size, we have like a few relationships at distilleries, and the fact that like there were people at Bardstown who were literally willing to help like immediately was like speaks to you guys, speaks to Bardstown. And it's like one of those things that's invaluable and completely irreplaceable. So it's just a huge shout out to you guys. It's a huge shout out. I mean, you do a great job. Obviously, everybody already knows that, but we appreciate the hell out of you guys. And I know a lot of consumers do just because of the way that you guys handle your business. So
cheers. Appreciate that. Both of you, Dan and
Long-winded.
Sean. Thank you.
yeah, no, we appreciate
thank you.
it.
Thanks for taking some time out of your night and coming on here and letting us do this really, really cool thing.
You guys are awesome. I love what you do. So first of many, I hope.
Yeah,
we
for
hope
sure,
so.
buddy. Thank you. We at some point we will meet you in person, see you in Kentucky, and then I'm going to hold you to the disco 1 through fall 2027 blind. So
I would love nothing more.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Have a good one.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
Yeah.
Are you just gonna go for it?
Yeah.